All right, good morning. Good morning, everybody out there. Listen, we had 12 games yesterday. We got two today. It's the polar opposite. And speaking of polar, it's pretty darn cold down here in Tampa Bay this morning, so I had to throw the hoodie on. We got below 50-degree weather, which for here in Tampa, here in Florida, is crazy. It's crazy, all right? I'm shivering. I'm shaking. So I had to get something warm on. Hashtag hoodie gang, hashtag no hat season, hashtag hoodie season. Let's go. We'll run the hoodie the whole show. I don't care. I'm cold. What's happening to everybody out there? Good to see some folks joining us this morning. Yes, it's just a 2-game NBA slate, but as I said, if there's basketball being played, then there's money to be made. And it is Taco Tuesday over on PrizePicks. They started things off early or late, depending on how you want to look at it, with a taco last night for some CSGO. So who knows what's going to happen today with just 2 NBA games. Hopefully we get some basketball tacos, at least one basketball taco. What do you guys think? I'm hungry, man. It's Taco Tuesday. Hopefully they feed us a delicious taco over on PrizePicks. If you've never been to PrizePicks.com or downloaded the app, do it right now. Do it right now. And when you deposit for the first time, make sure you use promo code Curry because you're going to get a 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit up to $100. It's a real simple way to play daily fantasy sports. You choose your favorite players. You choose your favorite props. You decide whether you're going to go over or under. Is Karl Anthony Towns going to score more or less than 22.5 points? All right. And you pick a couple other guys. You choose how much you want to put down on that entry. And you hit submit. And you could win anywhere from 2 times up to 15 times your money. So use promo code Curry. You see it floating above. There's a link down in the description below to help you get started today. Good morning to Tony. He says there was a streamathon. Yes, there was a streamathon yesterday. I went live for like 4 hours yesterday, guys. We were live entering entries over on PrizePicks. I was just hanging out yesterday, man. It was a totally wild day. We pretty much had basketball on from 12:30 p.m. Eastern time all the way through like 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. MLK Marathon Basketball. Lowballer, what's up? He's here dropping the tacos into the chat. Love to see it. Young O, only 2 games today. Not feeling the best at all. Well, listen, with just 2 games, there's definitely less options. Less places for you to go in terms of player props, right? You got 4 teams, 2 games, got points, rebounds, assists, fantasy score. Fantasy score has been treating me pretty well lately, I might say. 3-point makes and free throws made. Yesterday, if you're a member of Patreon, threw up 2 picks. It was Jakob Poeltl over 8.5 rebounds. He got the job done early in the 3rd quarter for us. Easy peasy. And then the late pick was Rudy Gobert over 42.5 fantasy points against the Lakers. My man came through in the clutch for us. So if you tailed that 2 pick, you at least tripled up your money. So hopefully you did. Hopefully the Patreon gang all ate. Hopefully they both they tailed both of those picks. Good to see Malcolm up in here. Good morning to you. Thomas, a.k.a. Fred Dog. He's ready to throw down on some tacos for Taco Tuesday. Delvin's up in the building. Good morning to you, Delvin. Delvin's been getting the bag. He wants to get another bag today, though. He don't care that it's just 2 games. He doesn't care. He thinks that any day is a good day to get the bag, and I agree with my man, Delvin. Everyday Fantasy, good morning to you and the Patreon family. Love that. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Ronald's Green back again, Mr. Consistent. What's up, Ronald? Travis says, good morning. Make it make sense. Oh, I see what you did there. Make it make sense today, bro. You got it. We'll do our best. Isaac's in the building. Happy Taco Tuesday. Let's get this bread or tortilla. Tortilla. You could go crunchy or soft. You could go flour or corn tortilla. See, I'm working on my pronunciation of tortilla. I know about some tortillas, folks. I've had a few in my life. King Chris, good morning to you. Small slate today. Turn that frown upside down, my friend. We'll figure it out. Hopefully we'll land on some winning picks. Hank the Tank Meyer. Yo! Young O's in the building. Wes, good to see you. Malcolm Burns. No Hat Curry. That's right. No Hat Curry. We're hoodie gang today. Hoodie gang today. Wesley Winston's up in the building. What's up, Wes? Longtime Patreon supporter. He's been behind what I've been doing for a long time. Appreciate you, Wes, for joining me this morning. Hoodie Mellow. I'm Hoodie Curry. That's right. Nick Rivera got the fitted off. Well, normally it's a dad hat, but, you know, tomato. Kabloom025, Noel out. Are we liking any Mitchell Robinson? Well, Mitchell Robinson came through yesterday at just 9 points. If you took the over on his 9-point prop, it ended up hitting. Young O knows what I'm talking about. Osmosis Jones says, let's get Vegas for all they're worth. Royster Cam 1 is liking some Mitchell Robinson over 8.5 points. We'll get into some of those picks. Stephen Donaldson says, Stevie G told me to come from Discord. Let's make some money. Stevie G, shout out to you, man. Stevie G's been getting to the bag lately. Nothing but love. Nothing but love to Stevie G. How do you make 15 times your money on PrizePicks? Well, one way to do it is in the NFL, take 2 quarterbacks from the same game. You take one quarterback over a single stat prop, and then you take another quarterback under a single stat prop. So let's say Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford are going to be facing off next week, right? Maybe you like Tom Brady to go over his passing yard prop, but you like Matt Stafford to go under his completions prop. That would unlock a 15x payout for you if you do a 5-pick flex entry over on PrizePicks. That's how you get it done. Now, if you want to take 2 quarterbacks from the same game and take both of their player props over, that'll unlock a 12.5x payout for you, which is also pretty sweet. So you are not capped at just 10x. You can go 12.5x. You could go 15x. Slap the like button if you are getting any value. Slap the like button if you just learned something new. Slap the like button if you're looking forward to what I'm about to put down for you folks today on this 2-game NBA slate. Appreciate all the support, folks. Juan Julio says, good morning to all. Thanks, CJ, for the NFL research. You're welcome, Juan. We're going to be doing more NFL videos throughout the rest of the playoffs, so definitely keep an eye out on those. Good morning to Bridget. Michael, how do I feel about RJ Barrett's fantasy points? We took it yesterday, and it ended up working out. So maybe RJ Barrett is a good play again today. We're going to definitely check it out. There is only corn tortillas, according to Research Prevails. I don't mind that take. Flour tortillas, flour tortillas are okay too. Jazz says, all in. Never go all in. Never go all in. Brian E. says, make sure you hit the like button. And my man George is back up in here. Looking swole, George. Staying in the gym, man. Staying fit, staying strong. I see you out here. Sean says that he missed the NFL video even though you have notifications turned on. Well, I did an NFL live stream back on Saturday. So, yeah. I'm going to try and keep doing those for you. I don't know why you missed that, but it definitely happened, man. It definitely happened. We definitely had an NFL video live stream go out for everything that happened on NFL Super Wildcard Weekend Yes, my friend, Mr. Sutton, I see you, brother. He said he stepped away for a while, but he's back. He was here before Patreon or even the Sheet Days. Yes, yes, yes. You're an OG. You're an OG. We miss you, buddy. We miss you. Salute to you, Anthony. Anthony, I know you're a Florida guy, right? You're a Floridian. How you feeling about this sub 50-degree weather today, my friend? You digging it? You enjoying the clear skies, the sun shining, the cool breeze in the air? How you liking the weather, Mr. Anthony? I know you're proud to live in the sunshine state, just like I am. Hit the like button for Hoodie CJ. All right, Daytona Beach born, kabloom. All right, I see you, brother. Flexing it. I'm flexing it with you. All right. All right, so if you're just getting here, like we talked about, had 12 games yesterday for MLK Day. Have just 2 games today, so it's a stark contrast. But we're going to make the most of it, and we're going to talk about these 2 NBA games right here, right now. The first one tips off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We got the Minnesota Timberwolves at the New York Knicks, 213.5 point total. Not bad, not bad. The spread is 3, which means this game should stay close and hopefully competitive because we hate blowouts. Fair to say? I know I do, especially when you're taking overs and you need those guys to get their full run of minutes to hit their player prop. Taking overs in a game that ends up blowing out is backbreaking. So let's take a look at some of these injuries here. We've got Bolmaro. Don't know who that is. McLaughlin are already ruled out for Minnesota. Looking over at the Knicks side, the biggest piece of injury news here is going to be Kemba Walker, who is currently listed as questionable. He is a game time decision. Derrick Rose, Nerlens Noel, and Cam Reddish already ruled out for the Knicks. So I like the total of this game. The spread is just 3. But when we get to the next game, you're going to see a totally different situation here. 10 o'clock brings us the Detroit Pistons at the Golden State Warriors, 217 point total. Look at the spread, folks. 15-point spread. Blowout city. Blowout city from what it looks like. It's projected to be a game where the Detroit Pistons are just going to get steamrolled by the Golden State Warriors. So for me, I got to put this one in a first half only bucket. Meaning I don't want to take anybody full game unless I'm taking the under. Now, maybe there's some credibility to go on Steph Curry or somebody like that under their full game props. There could be, if you don't think that Curry and the Golden State Warriors are going to be out there in the fourth quarter, maybe this game gets out of hand in the first 3 quarters. Curry doesn't see the floor in the fourth with a 15-point spread. Totally possible. It's realistic. It could happen. And maybe you take the under on somebody like Steph Curry. Just throwing it out there. Looking at the injury news for both teams, though, we got Jackson, Livers, Grant, Pickett, Olynyk, Garza, and Smith all ruled out for Detroit. So obviously the big one, Jeremy Grant, he's been out for a while, though. So that's nothing new. They'll be running out Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, Diallo, Bay, and Stewart. So they're going to have a pretty nice little core there. You guys think this game stays close, or do you think that Golden State really does blow out Detroit by 15 or more points? I don't know. For Golden State, it's going to be Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Porter, and Looney. No Draymond Green. He continues to sit out. We got to keep an eye on both Moody and Gary Payton II. Both of those guys, game time decisions. So, like I said, the early game looks like it's going to stay close and competitive, just a 3-point spread. The late game, completely opposite, 15-point spread in favor of the Golden State Warriors. So for me, looking at just first half plays from this game, just first half. So let's go ahead and get down to business, folks. Let's go ahead and get down to business. We're going to be using the tools provided by Fantasy Labs and Action Labs. Let's go ahead and refresh, make sure we have all the latest and greatest projections pulled in. We'll head on over to the points category and start things off there. Kabloom says he loves when I flex back. Well, if you guys drop a flex emoji, I have no choice. It's just something that comes out of me. Sean says, I'm in Tampa freezing my butt off this 50-degree weather. Man, listen, this 50-degree weather, I hate this. Now, when it, in about an hour or two, probably warms up to 60, 70, and the sun stays the way that it is, no clouds in the sky, beautiful. It's the perfect time to live in Florida. It's the perfect weather. That's the type of Florida weather that I like. Ronald K3 says he's in Orlando and he was not expecting this cold. Yeah, it was like 41 degrees early this morning. Tony says, I think Golden State Warriors win. Yeah, I think they do too. Absolutely. I think Golden State wins as well. Royster says, I wish you could wager on over or under on a player's minutes. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Pretty much everyone's back for the Warriors, Isaac, except for Draymond Green. All right, hold off on your picks and plays. We will definitely get to those. What's up to Reggie? What's up to Sus Gonzalez? What's up to Michael as well? Chris, what's happening? So looking at this current season here, we're going to look at the last 10 games, look at some points props. We got to start things off by talking about Karl Anthony Towns. He's at 22.5 points today. Over the last 10 games, Karl Anthony Towns at 23.5 points, which is probably where you're going to find him on most of the sports books, has covered his prop in 80% of the games that he's played in. So a very good hit rate here for Karl Anthony Towns, 80% hit rate over the last 10 games at 23.5 points. We're getting him at 22.5, so we're getting a point of value here. We look at the last 5 games, 4 out of 5, he has gone over 22.5 points, 80% hit rate in the last 5 games as well, averaging 27.2 points per game. That's nearly 5 points more than where he's set at today at 22.5. He's got strong performances against defensive monsters like Golden State, Memphis. All right, so he's not just beating up bums like Houston. I mean, he's even dropped 26 against New Orleans and Jonas Valanciunas, who is a formidable interior defender and presence in his own right? So Karl Anthony Towns just getting the job done here, 4 straight games that he's won over 22.5 points. Let's go take a look at this matchup here. For that, we are using a little free chart, free tool from Fantasy Pros, completely free. You could go check this out on your own. FanDuel NBA defense versus position. So the reason it's FanDuel is because FanDuel scoring, PrizePicks scoring for fantasy points is exactly the same. They are one and the same, 1-to-1. All right, so we're going to go to the center position. We're going to look at points, and we're going to see how many points per game that this New York Knicks team has given up to opposing centers over their last 7 games. So let's go take a look at that now. We got to go all the way down to the bottom of the list. They're giving up just 15 points per game, which is the first fewest. This team has been the most difficult matchup for centers when it comes to the point category. New York Knicks, number 1 in the league, 15 points per game. Just 15. So this could be a tough matchup for Karl Anthony Towns, at least on paper. Let's pull a projection up for Cat and see what they got him for. Got him projected for 26.2 points, gang. That's nearly 4 points higher than where he's at 22.5. We see him across the board, across the industry today. Couple of different books, couple of different sites have him at 22.5, but a couple others have him at 23.5. So we are getting a point of value versus some of these other sites out there. What do you guys think? What's the more appropriate line for Karl Anthony Towns given this matchup? We saw that New York allowing just 15 points per game to opposing centers over the last 7 games, the number 1 most difficult matchup. Do you think Karl Anthony Towns should be at 22.5 for that reason? Or do you think 23.5 is the more appropriate line? I could tell you this, at 22.5, people are taking the over. Minus 130, minus 125 to go over 22.5 points. At 23.5, though, I'm seeing some action on the under. Let's take a look and see if we've got any previous matchups for Karl Anthony Towns. And for that, we could use StatMuse, another completely free tool. So we'll do Karl Anthony Towns versus Knicks logs. And you can kind of get an idea here how he's done against the New York Knicks. Looks like going back to 2015, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just 8 career meetings versus the New York Knicks. So out of those 8 meetings, how many times has he covered 22.5 points? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 8. 6 out of 8, not bad. 6 out of 8, not bad. Not bad. What are you guys thinking? Karl Anthony Towns going over 22.5 points. He's done so in 6 out of 8 of his games. Makes for a compelling pick. Now we could take this a step further. So it's going to be in Madison Square Garden at New York. So let's take a look and see how many times he's covered this point prop when he plays in New York. Maybe he gets up, maybe gets a little bit more excited and amped and ready to go when he's taking on the Knicks. Let's take a look at that. So at New York, 25 points. That's a cover. At New York, 20 points. Close, but no cigar. He only played 30 minutes in that game, though, so we got to keep that in mind as well. Just 30 minutes of court time there. The next game against the Knicks drops 24 points. That's a cover. Another game against the Knicks at New York, 27. So overall, he's covered in 1, 2, 3 out of 4 games against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. So the splits are looking pretty good here. 75% hit rate against the Knicks in MSG. I'm just saying. I know it's a difficult matchup on paper. Last time he faced the Knicks was back on March 31st of 2021. That was last season. Played 40 minutes, managed just 18 points. Now, another thing that we have to keep in mind here, while we're talking Karl-Anthony Towns, while we've got his game logs pulled up against the Knicks, what about his rebounds at 8.5 boards? What about those? And the reason I want to mention that is because at 8.5 rebounds, he's covered in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. He's been a double-double machine against the New York Knicks in his career meetings, career matchups against the Knicks. So there you go. I think there's 2 very viable ways for you to play Karl-Anthony Towns right there. Points and or rebounds. His rebounds projected for 10.6. 10.6, obviously, that's 2.1 rebounds more than his line today of 8.5. Let's just look at the matchup here. Centers, New York Knicks, how many rebounds are they giving up to opposing centers? Sheesh. Not only are they number 1 against opposing centers in the last 7 games in the points category, but they're also number 1 against opposing centers in the rebound category, holding them to just 11 boards per game. Luckily, the game isn't played on paper. Otherwise, it would be all doom and gloom here for Karl-Anthony Towns. He's had great historical success against the Knicks, but the matchup's looking kind of tough. The projections love him, though. Projections do love him. How's that a difficult matchup versus Robinson and Taj Gibson? I don't know, brother. You make it make sense, Mr. Hattori Hanso, 13. I'm just reporting the facts here, folks. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie, as they say. 15 points per game allowed by the Knicks in the last 7 games. 11 rebounds allowed by the Knicks in the last 7 games. Listen. You tell me how it's hard. They're getting it done. I don't know how they're doing it. Maybe they're facing a bunch of bums. What do you think? Maybe that has something to do with it. They're facing a bunch of trash centers. Mookie Blaylock's in the building. Shout out Mookie Blaylock, Atlanta Hawks legend Mookie Blaylock in here. He says take the under. If anybody knows basketball, we got to trust Mookie Blaylock, right? Y'all remember how I said I was cold, right? Your boy's getting hot now. Your boy's getting hot. We got to come up out of this hoodie a little bit. There we go. Oh, boy. Boy's looking good. Boy's looking good. So what do you guys think? Would you rather take the over on Karl-Anthony Towns points or rebounds? Points or rebounds? For me, it looks like there's a little bit more upside potentially for Karl-Anthony Towns to cover 8.5 boards, being that the Knicks are giving up over 11 per game to opposing centers. So I don't know. He's dominated, though. Historically, the numbers are right here. Like I said, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Okay? You could see what he's done against the Knicks throughout the course of his career. I don't know how it's a tough matchup against Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, and company. I don't know. But it is on paper. All right. Shout out to everybody who's just now joining me, man. Shout out to Ben. Twiz Handles up in the building. Good to see you. Ray's back up in here. Ronald K3 in the building. Aaron Rodgers is in here. We got Mookie Blaylock, Aaron Rodgers joining. Oh my goodness. Say less. Chris Pringle's up in here. Lurking in the shadows. Busy Time 160. Good to see you. T-Rob. Yo. Jimmy Green. Good morning. Rami Q. What's up to you? Let's move on to the next point prop. Anthony Edwards at 19.5 points. I think you're going to find him at about 20.5 points on most sites today. At 20.5 points over the last 10 games, 70% hit rate on young Anthony Edwards. He's going up against the New York Knicks. Now, over the last 5 games, Anthony Edwards has covered 19.5 points in 3 out of 5 games. That's a 60% hit rate. Not terrible. And you know me, when a prop's coming off of a flop and he had just 9 points against Golden State, that is definitely a flop, folks. That's definitely a down game for Anthony Edwards. I like to go right back to it and hope that this guy ends up back to right around where his scoring average has been recently, which is around 22 points. So I could definitely see this as a bounce back type of game here for Anthony Edwards. But who cares what I think? All right? I don't know anything. Let's go look at the numbers. Let's go look at the matchup here against the New York Knicks. Nobody knows anything, by the way. It's not just me that doesn't know anything. If anybody tells you they know what's going to happen, they're full of mierda. Okay? That's crap in Espanol. Don't believe anybody who says they know what's going to happen or they've got a lock. That's bull. That's bull. It's a bunch of bull. Anthony Edwards tonight going up against the New York Knicks. Don't know who he's going to be matched up with. Could be RJ Barrett. If it's RJ Barrett, I'm a little worried about Anthony Edwards. RJ Barrett, pretty good defender. New York, though, going up against shooting guards. 21.2 points per game in the last 7 games. That kind of puts him right in the middle of the pack. But 21.2, obviously more than 19.5. He needs 20 points to get the job done if you're thinking about taking the over on young Ant Edwards. So you can kind of see that puts him like right in the middle of the pack. Now, they do start Pat Beverly, D'Angelo Russell in the backcourt. So maybe you consider Anthony Edwards to be more of a small forward. And less of a shooting guard. So we'll look at the other wing spot. Shooting guard, small forward, both wing positions. Let's see how the Knicks do against opposing small forwards. They're giving up about 19 points per game, which puts them down toward the bottom of the league. It's a difficult matchup. That is the ninth fewest points allowed to opposing small forwards. So it doesn't look like a fantastic matchup here for Anthony Edwards. Not great by any means. So let's head over to the points category. We'll pull a projection up for Anthony Edwards. I got him projected for 23.3 points. Now here is something worth noting. Something you need to definitely bring up on your radar. 2 out of the 4 sports books that we reference here, 19.5 points, which is where he's at on PrizePicks, by the way, 19.5 points. But what I will warn you is that 2 other books have him at 21.5 points, meaning that's 2 points. 2 points of value, 2 points different than where he's at on PrizePicks. That's tremendous value, folks. It probably doesn't sound like a lot. Probably doesn't sound like much, but 2 points of value on a point prop is huge. Whether you believe it or not, or whether you recognize or realize it or not. 21.5 versus 19.5. That is tremendous value. Now he's projected for 23.3 points, which is obviously more than 19.5 by a few points. So things are looking pretty good here. The fact that we're seeing some lines makers on some of these reputable sites, reputable sports books, putting him up at 21.5 means there's a real chance he's like 21 to 22 points tonight. All right. If you believe that their lines makers are sharp. Okay. So we looked at the matchup. Let's go see how he's done historically in his young career versus the Knicks. I don't know if we're going to have very many game logs to look at, but we can at least dive in a little bit. Anthony Edwards versus the Knicks. He's played the Knicks twice in his career. Had very different results in both of those games. So back on February 21st of 2021, played 32 minutes, ended up with just 12 points. Now, that was at New York for you guys who like to play splits. Splits, in other words, how does he play on the road versus how does he play at home? So he had just 12 points in his first career game versus the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. Struggled. Now back on March 31st of 2021, played 36 minutes, ended up with 24 points. A lot more field goal attempts that game. Shot the ball 16 times. The first meeting against the Knicks, just 11. So he played more minutes, shot the ball more, had a much higher, better field goal percentage. So definitely something worth looking at here. Anthony Edwards over 19.5 points. As I mentioned, you're seeing him at 21.5 on some of these books. There's definite value here. Despite what looks like kind of an average, mediocre matchup. Who do you have more faith in tonight? Do you have more faith in Karl Anthony Towns or Anthony Edwards covering their point prop? It's a good question. Good question. All right. Other guys may be worth considering. We got Patrick Beverley at 70% hit rate over his last 10 games at 8.5 points. Actually, that's 9.5 points. So we're seeing some point value all across the board today. Pat Beverley, 8.5 points. Not the first name that you think of when it comes to the Minnesota Timberwolves and point props or scoring props. But at 70% hit rate in the last 10 games at 9.5 points, I think he's worth considering. And you look at the last 5 games, he's covered 8.5 points at an 80% hit rate. He's averaging nearly 11 points per game. He's not going to shoot the ball a whole lot. He's not going to get a ton of buckets for you. But he has shown 20-point upside. Now, that was against a pretty bad Oklahoma City Thunder team who suck against opposing point guards. But let's look at the matchup here against the New York Knicks today. Now, we don't have to go down very far. They're actually giving up over 23 points per game, nearly 24 points per game to opposing point guards. So we need him to find just 9 of those 24 points that they give up. Now, I want to take a look at the shooting guard spot again and see how many points they give up to opposing shooting guards. About 21. The reason I mention that is because him and D'Angelo Russell, kind of really both point guards. I would say Patrick Beverley is definitely more of that floor general style point guard. He's looking to set guys up. He's not really looking to get his own shot off. But either way, I mean, there's upside here for Pat Beverley, who needs just 9 points against the Knicks team, giving up 23 to the point guard position and 21 to the shooting guard spot. So that's over 43 points given up, and he needs to find 9 of those 43 points in that backcourt. I think it's doable. I think it's definitely doable. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection here on Patrick Beverley. I've got him projected for 9.6 points. That's 1.1 point higher than where he's at on PrizePicks at just 8.5. We look at the 4 different sports books at 9.5 points. He is a betting favorite on 3 of the 4 books, meaning the betting public are putting down their money that he's going to score less than 9.5 points, which is fine. Because if he lands on 9 points and you take the over at 8.5, you win. You win money. So, yeah, Pat Beverley definitely been getting it done. Let's see if we have any game logs. I won't go back too far. I just want to see how he's done as a member of the T-Wolves, if he's got any game logs in there. So we go Patrick Beverley versus Knicks logs. And he's got 1 game as a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the New York Knicks. And that was from December 28th of last year. So just less than a month ago. He played 29 minutes, scored just 3 points, had 7 boards, 7 assists. So maybe you don't want to go with his points prop based on the last matchup against the Knicks. But 9 points seems very doable, very enticing. He can go ghost. If you're talking about Patrick Beverley, he can definitely go ghost at times. Now, over on the New York Knicks side, one of the names that I saw mentioned and one of the names that we talked about yesterday in yesterday's 4-hour MLK marathon stream that I did. Yeah, I literally sat here for 4 hours in front of this camera talking NBA player props with you guys all day long. But one of the names that came up was Mitchell Robinson. Now, yesterday he was at 9 points on PrizePicks. We talked about liking the over, and it ended up working out. He actually did cover his prop against Charlotte, ended up with 10 points, just enough to get it done. You look at Mitchell Robinson at 8.5 points over the last 10 games, 70% hit rate, 5 straight games now. He has gone over 8.5 points, a 100% hit rate, and he's averaging 13.4 points per game. We know Nerlens Noel is already ruled out for New York, meaning hopefully Mitchell Robinson gets more run. I know that probably helps Taj Gibson out a little bit too. Taj will probably get some more run. But Mitchell Robinson, I think, should be considered here. Now, let's go look at the matchup. He's been absolutely destroying his points prop. I mean, averaging 13.5 versus 8.5, it seems like a no-brainer, right? Let's dig in a little bit deeper here and go look at this matchup against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota's given up nearly 24 points per game to opposing centers. Nearly 24 points per game. Now, we don't need him to get 20 points tonight. We only need 9. 9 out of this guy would get the job done, right? If we want to lean toward the over. I would say that this is a good matchup a plus matchup for Mitchell Robinson. Just 9 points. What do you guys think? Worth taking a shot on, I'm thinking. The matchup's looking decent here. I think you could also look at his fantasy score as well. Minnesota not doing a great job against opposing centers. They're giving up nearly 55 fantasy points per game as well. So you could also go there if you think he has a good combination of points, rebounds, maybe a block or two, maybe he gets his hand on a steal, a couple of assists. Could go his fantasy points too. Minnesota giving up a bunch of fantasy points as well. So let's go ahead and pull up a projection on Mitchell Robinson's points. He's projected for 9.4 points. Now, unlike some of these other players that we've already talked about, Mitchell Robinson, we're not seeing any value. In other words, he's at 8.5 on PrizePicks. He's at 8.5 points everywhere you look today. Now, I'm seeing some mixed signals, some mixed signs. We're seeing the bettors put in their money on the over on 3 out of 4 sites, but there is one site where they are betting the under at minus 120 odds to go under 8.5, but he is projected for 9.4. Again, guys, 100% hit rate in the last 5 games. You look at the last 10 games, 70% hit rate at covering 8.5 points. And the matchup looks pretty good on paper. So Mitchell Robinson's points, I would say, are in play today. I think they have to be in play. Another guy that maybe we want to talk about from this game, D'Angelo Russell. You know me. Off of a flop, I go back to a prop. Now, he had 7 points against Golden State. Both he and Anthony Edwards struggled mightily against the Warriors. One of these guys is probably poised to bounce back. You guys were saying that you did not trust Patrick Beverley at, what did he need, 9 points, 10 points to go over, 9 points to go over? Maybe you trust his backcourt mate, D'Angelo Russell, just a little bit more. I think I do. But again, he's got a higher point prop as well, so there's that caveat to consider. We looked at the point guard and shooting guard matchup here against the New York Knicks. D'Angelo Russell, kind of more of the shooting guard. So who will be guarding him? That is the big question. New York giving up over 21 points per game to opposing shooting guards. Middle of the road matchup, kind of an average matchup for D'Angelo Russell. But there's some upside here. They're giving up over 21 points. He needs 17. And he's coming off of a bad game. I don't think he and Anthony Edwards have back-to-back bad games. One of these guys is going to pop. They're going to pop off. Which one? It's a good question, man. If I had the answer to that, oh boy, I could be making a lot of money. I got D'Angelo Russell projected for 20.7 points, guys. That's over 4 points higher than 16.5, which is where he's at on PrizePicks. That's a pretty big margin. Now, listen, projections are not always accurate. They're not 100% accurate and right all the time. But when you see 20.7 projected points versus 16.5 on PrizePicks, you should take notice and you should take it serious. Put some careful consideration. One other thing that I want to mention, just like we talked about with Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, 4 different books, 4 different sites. 3 out of the 4 have him at 17.5 points, which is a point higher than where he's at 16.5. Even better and more interesting, 1 out of these 4 sites has him at 18.5 points, which is 2 points higher than where he's at 16.5. Definitely some value on D'Angelo Russell's point prop at 16.5. There's some value here. That's what I like to see. Keep doing that, PrizePicks. We like these soft point prop lines. We really do. I know I do. So let's just take a quick glimpse, a peek. D'Angelo Russell versus the Knicks. Now, he doesn't have any game logs as a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the New York Knicks, apparently. So we'll have to look at what he's done over the course of his career on other teams. And it hasn't been very good. Hasn't been very sexy. In fact, he's only covered 16.5 points versus the Knicks once in his career. And that was when he was with Golden State, December 2019. Over 2 years ago, he dropped 32 points. Otherwise, he has struggled mightily against the Knicks. But listen, you got to take all this stuff with a grain of salt. He's obviously a Minnesota Timberwolf now. Way different situation. Okay? So Just wanted to show you that, but I wouldn't let that stop you from taking the over on him at 16.5. Let me put it that way. All right. So those are some points props to consider. I know most of them have been from Minnesota, New York. We could talk some Golden State. That game's going to be a blowout, though. That game's going to be a blowout. So if you're going to want to take any points props from this game, the Golden State Warriors Detroit Pistons game. We talked about it at the top of the show. Maybe you're just getting here and you missed what I said. I said I would only consider guys from this game in a first half only format. If you're wanting to take overs, that is. If you're wanting to take overs from Golden State Detroit, this game has a 13-point spread. Consider taking them in a first half only format. Because if the game gets out of hand and you've taken an over on Steph Curry over 24.5 points, he may not be out there in the fourth quarter if this game blows out. So we got to protect ourselves, mitigate damages, mitigate risks. And we do that by playing just a first half only format. So I'm not going to spend any time talking about any of these guys in a full game format. I just don't think it's a sound decision, a reasonable decision. Now, could it stay close for 3 to 4 quarters? Maybe. But for me, why take the risk? So I'm all about mitigating risk. So we're not going to talk about any of these guys' points in a full game format, maybe in a first half only format. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these guys in a first half only format. Now, Golden State, they're back to almost 100%. Almost 100%. Everybody but Draymond Green is pretty much back in the lineup. So they've got Curry. They've got Wiggins, Looney. They'll be starting Otto Porter Jr. tonight. Klay Thompson, obviously. So that's who you should be that's who you should be looking at, rather, in the Golden State Warriors lineup. So let's go take a look at some of these props here. Just looking at their full game. This is a reference point. At 25.5 points, which is Curry's full game point prop, he's gone under that number 50% of the time. So not a very high hit rate. He's not covering very well. Let's go ahead and do this. We can use StatMuse to help us here. Stephen Curry, first half points logs. Cool. So he's at 12.5, meaning he needs 13 points. 13 points to cover. How many times has he done that in the last 5 games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. He's only gone over 12.5 points, meaning 13 or more points in 1 out of 5. 20% hit rate at covering 12.5 points in the last 5 games. Let's go back another 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A little bit better here. He's gone over in 1, 2. So he's gone over 12.5 points in 3 out of 10 games. That's a 30% hit rate. So if you're wanting to go under on anybody, maybe you go under on Steph Curry. Are you going to feel good about it? Is it going to make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside? Heck no. It shouldn't. Listen, Detroit, they're giving up over 25.7 points per game to point guards over the last 7 games. That is the 8th most points given up to opposing point guards. This is a very good matchup for Steph Curry. Very good matchup against Steph Curry. Do we have any previous game logs against Detroit from the first half only? I don't see any. No previous game logs against Detroit from this season. First half only points. So we're kind of going into this blind a little bit. But the matchup, I will warn you, is very good on paper for Steph. Very good. So let's go pull a projection up. Now, this will be a full game projection on his points. They got him projected for 32.2 points, gang. 32.2 points. He's at 25.5 full game points over on PrizePicks. So they expect him to blow away his prop. If you trust in the action projection tool, that is. I don't think he's going to be out there for 4 quarters of basketball. That's just my personal opinion. So, do you guys want to go under Steph Curry 12.5 points in the first half? Yay or nay? You let me know. You feel good about it? I don't think I do. The matchup just looks too good, too scary for Curry to pop off. All right, so let's talk about somebody else then. What about Andrew Wiggins. He's got a pretty big number here at 8.5 points. How many times has Andrew Wiggins covered 8.5 points in the last 5 and 10 games? First half only. Well, we could take a look at that using StatMuse. We go Andrew Wiggins. First half point logs. All right, so we'll look at the first 5 games for Andrew Wiggins. How many times has he gone for 9 or more points in the first 5 games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's covered this twice. So that's a 40% hit rate. Now we'll back it up and go 5 more back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's covered this in 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's got a pretty high hit rate. What I will remind you of, though, is a lot of these games early January were without Klay Thompson. Late December, early January were without Klay Thompson. So his hit rates have gone down significantly with Klay Thompson back. I think Wiggins has kind of slid to almost like the third wheel now, with both Curry and Klay kind of leading the way in terms of field goal attempts. How many shots he's getting up? Like against Minnesota here, looked like it was going to be a smash spot. He attempted just 3 shots against the T-Wolves. Ended up with 2 points. So let's look at this matchup here. So I think Detroit's got some pretty serviceable wing defenders. Saddiq Bey, Diallo, maybe guys that can give Andrew Wiggins a hard time. But let's go look at the numbers, because I can think all that I want to think. Let's see what's actually been happening here. The last 7 games, Detroit's given up about 21.3 points per game. 21.3 points per game. Do you want to go over or under on Andrew Wiggins in a matchup there? His hit rates haven't been great over the last 5 games. But this matchup against Detroit isn't exactly one that's scaring me off of him either. So if you're going to take an over on any of these guys from Golden State or Detroit, make it a first half only. I'm going to keep repeating that, reiterating that in case you've missed it. You want to take overs from this game, make them first half overs. If you want to take unders from this game, I like taking unders on some of the stars, some of the veterans who you think that if it blows out, probably won't be out there in a fourth quarter situation. A guy like Steph Curry, a guy like Klay Thompson, who's still working his way back to a full run of minutes. All right, I got Andrew Wiggins projected for 19 points. He's on various sports betting sites at 16.5 and at 17.5 points for his full game prop. Not 16.5 points, seeing him as high as minus 140 betting favorite to go over 16.5. So again, you want to take the overs on any of these guys, make sure you do it in a first half format. Let's take a look at some of these other ones. I mean, Kevon Looney, he needs 2 buckets. He needs to make 2 baskets to go over 3.5 points. What do we think here, man? Do we think that's doable? Well, let's go look. Last 5 games at 3.5 points. How many times has he covered this? Just once. 1 out of 5. 20% hit rate. So not very good. We go back to the previous 5 games. Again, this is without Klay Thompson most of these games. He covers in 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5. So since Klay's come back, the first half cover on Kevon Looney at 3.5 points has gone way down versus where it was. You can see here, 2, 4, 2, 0, 0. 2, 4, 4. It was much better in this little section of games than it was in this last 5 section, right? So let's go take a look at the matchup here. Going up against Detroit, obviously Looney, the center. He's going up against my man Beef Stew. That's Isaiah Stewart, for those of you who did not know. This is kind of a middle of the pack, middle of the road matchup. Detroit's given up about 22.6 points per game to opposing centers. 22.6 points per game to opposing centers. Let's go take a look at his full game point prop. Just as a reference point, I got Looney projected for 5.7. 5.7 full game points. Now we look at various sites here. 5.5 and 6.5 is the number that he's at on a couple of these different books. At 5.5 points, full game points, minus 150 to go over, minus 155 to go over. At 6.5, they're taking the under, minus 134, minus 135. So what do you guys think here? Kevon Looney over or under 3.5 first half points against a Detroit team that's given up over 22 points to the center position? Interesting. Very interesting. Let's talk about some of these Detroit Pistons. Is there anybody that We're loving that we're trusting. Well, we could kind of look for holes here. Look for holes here on the Golden State Warriors team. Where are they weak? Where are they vulnerable? In order to do that, you just go to the position that you want to look for, and you go to whatever prop category. So one that's really jumping out here is Golden State giving up over 25.9 points per game to opposing point guards. So who would that benefit in this case? I don't know that I love going Killian Hayes points. I think the guy that this would benefit the most would probably be Cade Cunningham at 8.5 points. Golden State giving up the 7th most points per game to opposing point guards over the last 7 games. Very good matchup here for point guards. And I would say that Cade is probably the guy, right, at point guard. So let's go take a look here and see what his points projection is today. I got Cade going for 17.1 full game points. 17.1. Now he's at 16.5 and 17.5 on most sites, most sports books out there. So then that begs the question, how often has Cade Cunningham actually covered 8.5 points? Let's go take a look. We can do that right here on StatMuse. Cade Cunningham, first half points logs at 8.5 points. Let's take a look at it. Back-to-back games now, he's had 13 points. We go back to 5 games. He's covered this number in 2 out of 5, 40% hit rate. Not great. We go back to the previous 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's actually covered in 2 out of 5 there as well. So overall, he's 4 for 10. 40% hit rate at covering 8.5 points over the last 10 games. Not great. Not great. I wish it was like 60%. But it's not. But it's not. Do we have any previous games against Golden State? We do. We can go all the way back to November 19th against the Warriors. He played 18 first half minutes. He actually scored 13 first half points against the Warriors. So we do have at least one previous game log that we can kind of reference for Cade Cunningham this season against tonight's opponent, the Golden State Warriors. So maybe he's worth a shot at 8.5 points. Again, you could go full game if you have some kind of hunch, some sort of spidey sense that this game is going to stay close and that the spread of 13 points is totally ridiculous and you think Detroit's going to make this game competitive. Maybe Golden State takes them lightly. Maybe the Pistons come out playing with a fire under their butts. Maybe they make this thing competitive. I don't know. But maybe Cade Cunningham over 8.5 points is a good way to go, showing that he's done it, being that he's done it once before against Golden State. It was way back in November, but he has done it. Just not a great hit rate over the last 10 games at 40%. All right, I think we've beaten these points props to death here. Again, my take is all of the Minnesota, New York players are in play for a full game point format. But for me, I think I'm looking to take maybe first half only on the Detroit game, Golden State game. I just don't know that this game's going to stay very close or competitive. Crazier things have happened. Weirder things have happened here. All right. So with that being said, let's move it on over to some rebounds. Let's see who's been the top board getters and see who's been the top bed shitters. Those are guys who have low hit rates. Board getters, bed shitters. Who shit the bed, right? You get what I'm saying. Start things off here. Man in the middle, Julius Randle at 9.5 boards over the last 10 games. Guys, 80% hit rate for this guy. He's been actually pulling in a lot more rebounds lately. Sometimes he can be a little, I would say, lazy or lackadaisical out there. He likes to sit out at the three-point line and pretend he's a shooting guard, a point guard at times, dishing assists, taking threes. But I can tell you this. Over the last 10 games, 80% hit rate at 9.5 boards. We look at the last 5 games, also rocking an 80% hit rate. 10.4 rebounds per game on average, which is almost 1 rebound higher than where his line is set at 9.5. So let's go take a look at the matchup here. Julius Randle spends most of his time at the power forward spot. We're going to go take a look at this matchup against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're giving up about 10.4 rebounds per game, which puts him outside of the top 10, probably like top 15. So kind of a middle of the road average matchup. Not looking great. Now, sometimes Julius Randle slots in at the center spot. So let's look at the center spot and see how Minnesota does in the rebound department. They're giving up just 12.3, which makes them the 7th most difficult matchup for centers and rebounds. So pretty stingy against opposing centers over the last 7 games in the rebound department. But again, Randle going to spend most of his time at the power forward spot. Super high hit rates here for Randle. Let's go see what his projection's looking like here using the action projection tool, part of Fantasy Labs. Got Julius Randle projected for 10.4 rebounds in a game that looks to stay close, looks to stay competitive. Now, some very strong action coming in on this prop so far this morning. Minus 145 and minus 160 betting favorite to cover 9.5 rebounds. Those are very strong odds. You usually don't see a prop up at 9.5 when you're seeing minus 160, minus 145 floating around. This might get bumped to 10 at some point today, folks. It might get bumped up to 10. One other thing that we could do here is just take a look at Julius Randle and his game logs against Minnesota. We could go Julius Randle rebounds versus Minnesota logs. And as a member of the New York Knicks, we'll just stick to the games that he's been a Knick. Versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, you can kind of see what he's done here. 15 rebounds back on December 28th. That was this season. December 28th of 2021. 15 rebounds. Then he had 12 rebounds. 12 rebounds back on March 31st of 2021. That was last season. And then he had 14 rebounds back on February 21st, 2021. So 3 games against the Minnesota Timberwolves, 3 covers as a member of the New York Knicks. 2 of those games were at home. 1 of those games was on the road at Minnesota. And then historically, I mean, just looking at some of his other games versus Minnesota, he's been crushing the boards against this T-Wolves team. As a member of the Pelicans, as a member of the Lakers, he's got a lot of overs, way more overs than he does unders, right? So it looks like a really good matchup here for Julius Randle, despite what the numbers say. Historically, he's shown a knack for getting it done against Minnesota. So I think he's definitely worth considering today as an over option. Just been historically dominant against Minnesota. Looking at another prop here. Diallo, 5 rebounds. He's at 5.5 on most of your books. Over the last 10 games, Diallo has covered this prop in 80% of his games. That's 8 out of 10. Over the last 5 games, he's covered this prop in 4 out of 5. That is also an 80% hit rate. So he's rocking the 80% pretty steady here, averaging 6.2 rebounds per game. But again, we're worried about blowouts. This guy's young, though. If this game does blow out, I think we see maybe like a Diallo out there late in the game. It's the veterans that I'm really worried about. And Golden State has a lot of vets. Detroit, not so many vets. So I'm okay probably playing this in a full game format. Being that he's a younger guy, if it gets out of hand, he might still be out there in the fourth quarter. Let's take a look at the matchup here. He's listed as a guard-forward, so we'll kind of look at both the shooting guard, small forward spot. I think Saddiq Bey's been playing a little more power forward for Detroit. So we'll go to the rebound category. He's going up against Golden State tonight. Let's see how many boards Golden State's given up to opposing small forwards over the last 7 games. It's not a ton, 7.5, 7.5 rebounds. There's a little bit of wiggle room here, a little bit of upside potentially for Diallo. There's also a chance that maybe he pushes and lands on exactly 5 boards. He's coming off of a subpar game for his standards at just 4 rebounds versus Phoenix. So not a terrible, matchup. It's not the most difficult matchup in the world, but it's also not the easiest matchup in the world. Let's go to the shooting guard spot and see how Golden State has done there. They're giving up about 6 rebounds per game to opposing shooting guards, which again, kind of puts them down toward the bottom, but more in the middle of the pack. So not like a fantastic plus matchup for rebounders at the shooting guard and small forward spot against this Golden State Warriors team. Let's just pull a projection on Diallo. Got him projected for 6.3 rebounds. That's more than 5, obviously. Told you he's at 5.5 boards on all of your favorite sports books tonight. He is at minus 150, minus 145, minus 135 betting odds to go under 5.5 boards, which is why PrizePicks bumped him down to an even 5. They shaved off or rounded off the hook. That 0.5 is known as the hook. They've taken it down to 5. So you're thinking, Aaron Rodgers, that Diallo will not play in the fourth quarter of a blowout? Why is that? You think they would take him off the floor? Do you think that he can get it done in 3 to 3.5 quarters of gameplay at five rebounds, being that he's got such a high hit rate on his rebound prop? I don't know. I mean, it's not a big number at 5 boards. It's not a crazy number. Doable. I think it's doable if he plays at least 3 solid quarters, 3.5 quarters, something like that. What do you guys think? We can take a look at the matchup here and see if Diallo has faced Golden State at all, just to kind of get an idea. So we'll go Diallo rebounds versus Warriors logs. See if anything comes up. He's got 1 game log. He pulled in 5 boards in just 13 minutes of court time back on November 19th. November 19th of this NBA season. Played 13 minutes, had 5 boards and 10 points. So he was very efficient in that game with the time that he took the floor. 13 minutes, he ended up with 10 points, 5 boards. You got to imagine that he's going to play a lot more than 13 minutes tonight, right? So Mr. Rodgers is doing the extra work for all of us today. He's saying that he looked at the rotations in blowout situations and that Diallo probably won't be out there if this game does blow out. You guys are hoping for a Steph taco. What are you wanting the taco to be on? Because that would be like my man King Chris is saying, potentially a fade for me if they put a Steph Curry taco out there. I hope the taco comes from the Minnesota-New York game, personally. All right, let's go back to that game real quick. Let's look at Jared Vanderbilt, who's at 8.5 boards. Listen, it's very rare that Jared Vanderbilt has back-to-back poor rebounding games. Usually when he has a bad game, at least over the last 5 games, like he had 5 boards against New Orleans, he bounced back. Now, there's a number of Diallos here. I looked at Hamidou Diallo. They're mixed in, but Hamidou Diallo here. Detroit versus Golden State. I wasn't looking at Cheikh Diallo. I was looking at Hamidou Diallo. I know there's more than one Diallo, Mr. Cameron. They're all mixed in here, but I was looking at the Detroit guy. They played each other earlier this season. I got you. Don't worry. I'm not mixing it up here. All right. Thanks for trying to keep me in check, though. Thanks for trying to call me out. They're all mixed in, though. They're all mixed in. Both Diallos are mixed into these game logs. I made sure we were talking about the right Diallo, though. Anyway, Jared Vanderbilt very rarely puts together 2 poor rebounding performances. You look at his last 5 games, 16, 19, 13 rebound upside. He needs just 9 rebounds tonight. Over the last 10 games, covering this number of 8.5 boards over 70% of the time. So 60% hit rate in the last 5, 70% hit rate over the last 10, averaging nearly 12 boards per game. Looking pretty good here for Mr. Vanderbilt in terms of hit rates. So he is probably more the power forward going up against the New York Knicks tonight. Let's see how many boards the Knicks are giving up per game to the last 7 games. Just 7.3. 7.3. So this projects to be a difficult matchup for both Karl Anthony Towns and Jared Vanderbilt when it comes to the rebounds. Now let's go back and look at the center spot. I like to look at both positions, both front court positions. New York, once again, allowing the first fewest rebounds per game to both power forwards and centers. So this could be a difficult situation here for Mr. Vanderbilt, based on what we're seeing here over the last 7 games out of the New York Knicks. Pulling up a projection for Vandy. Is it okay if I call you Vandy, Jared? At 8.5 rebounds. He is projected for 10.5, which is 2 rebounds more than his line today. Now, this is also kind of interesting and worth noting. He is at 8.5 on 2 out of the 3 sites, but there is a site that has him up at 9.5, meaning they think that maybe there's 9 to 10 rebound potential here for Jared Vanderbilt. The lines makers over at PointsBet has him up at 9.5 boards. At 8.5, he is a betting favorite to go over 8.5 rebounds. Now, we can take a step further here and do what we've done and go Jared Vanderbilt rebounds versus Knicks logs. He's got 1 game log as a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the New York Knicks. That was from February 21st of last season. He pulled in just 2 boards, but played just 16 minutes in that game. So, not a very good sample for us to hang our hats on. Throw that one out, I would say. Don't even worry about that. So what do you guys think? He's going up against the team that is allowing the first fewest rebounds to both power forwards and centers. Are him and Karl Anthony Towns going to cover their rebound props tonight? I don't know. It's looking tough, man. It's looking tough. The projections love him, though. We already talked Karl Anthony Towns. Historically been dominant in the rebound category versus the New York Knicks. It's been kind of up and down, inconsistent for Karl Anthony Towns over the last 5 games. So not a model of consistency there. And like we mentioned, this matchup looking difficult on paper. It's just on paper, guys. Don't get your panties in a bunch. I know you guys are saying, oh, it's Mitchell Robinson, it's Julius Randle. How in the world could they stop anybody from doing great things on the basketball court? I don't know. The numbers are there. You're seeing them. I'm seeing them. They are. Like it or not. RJ Barrett's rebounds are at 6 on PrizePicks. He's at 5.5 on most sports books. He pulled in 12 boards against Charlotte. Now, this could be a buy low situation. What I mean by buy low is that he had a really, really high game here at 12. So for me, I would be like, do I think he does that again? Or do I take the under here coming off of this magnificent rebounding performance of 12 boards? Could be a spot where you buy low and take the under, in other words. So I like to look for guys who are coming off of bad games and take the over the next time. And I also like looking for guys who are coming off really outrageous games whose lines may have been bumped up because of that outrageously good performance from the previous game. Then maybe they're worth taking an under on. But let's go look at the matchup here. RJ, kind of the shooting guard, small forward spot. Again, NBA, so positionless these days. Minnesota's given up 9.7 rebounds per game to opposing shooting guards over the last 7 games. That is the first most. So this is the best matchup for shooting guards in the rebound department. Minnesota and Los Angeles Clippers, the only 2 teams giving up 9 or more boards to shooting guards over the last 7 games. Fun fact. Very good spot here for RJ Barrett. So I can see why they've bumped him up to 6 projected rebounds. Now let's go look at the small forward spot. Minnesota giving up a lot less rebounds to the small forward position, 5.3, second fewest. So who benefits here? Is it RJ Barrett? He's kind of a guard, shooting guard / small forward. If he's a shooting guard, the matchup looks a lot better. We'll just say that. Let's pull a projection up for RJ Barrett here. We're diving in deep today, guys. We got 2 games, so we're getting into the weeds on a lot of these props. Hope you're rocking with what I'm doing here, going extra deep. 6.5 boards on a couple of sites, 5.5 on others. At 5.5, minus 145 to go over. At 6.5, minus 145 to go under. But he's projected for 6.1 boards, so maybe there's not much value in this prop, not much of an edge in this prop. For me, looking at the polarities here, great matchup in rebounds if he's a shooting guard. Really bad matchup in rebounds if he's a small forward. I'd probably fade this one just because I'm not seeing a super clear path to success. Hold off on your player prop questions and stuff just so I don't have to scroll back through. After we're done kind of going through these, we'll go ahead and take some of your questions. Man, I can't believe we're over an hour in already. Sheesh. Time flies, huh? when you're having fun. Maybe one other guy that you can consider going over on his rebound prop is Isaiah Stewart. He's at 6.5 boards. It's a pretty low number for him, but again, we're worried about blowouts. So for me, I'm going to kind of hold off on this whole game, as it's going to be reserved as a first half only type of play for me. So that means you could either play first half over points or under points, or first half over fantasy points or under fantasy points. But this game's expected to be a runaway in favor of the Golden State Warriors. All right, enough rebound talk. Let's talk about some assist props. We've got 8 different options up on the board right now. One guy that's not up on the board that maybe we will get later in the day, Karl Anthony Towns at 3.5 assists. If we get him at 3.5 assists, 70% of his last 10 games, he has covered 3.5 dimes. He would be one that is worth taking the over on potentially. Patrick Beverley's also missing from the board at 4.5 assists. He's covered 4.5 dimes in 70% of his games. So our top 2 hitters when it comes to the assist props for the Minnesota Timberwolves are not up on the board. And neither is Anthony Edwards at 3.5 assists. 60% hit rate for him, going over 3.5. We're also not going to get Killian Hayes up on the board at 3.5 dimes, 60% hit rate there. Cade Cunningham, 5.5 assists, 60% hit rate. We're getting him at 4.5 assists on PrizePicks today. Is he low enough at 4.5 dimes for us to take a shot in a game that will potentially blow out? Let's do a little homework here. We'll go to the point guard position. We'll head on over to the assist category. Golden State giving up 8.5 dimes per game to opposing point guards. So we need Mr. Cunningham to find at least five before he gets benched in what looks like it's setting up for a blowout. Potentially blowout. All right, so it looks like a decent situation here for Cunningham. Not a very difficult matchup. I got him projected for 5.6 dimes. 5.6 dimes. It's risky, being that the game is expected to get crazy. But at 4.5 assists, -160 and -140, betting favorite to go over. At 5.5 dimes, -140 to go under. So between the 4.5 and the 5.5 lies 5 assists. If you want to take the over, you got to hope that he lands on 5. Right? 5 or more. And he is projected to cover this prop at 5.6. We could go back. We could hop in the DeLorean and head back to the future here. Cade Cunningham, assists versus Warriors, logs. We're using StatMuse, by the way, if you've never seen this site before. It is called StatMuse. So he faced Golden State back on 11/19/21. Played 36 minutes, had 19 points, 6 assists, which is more than 4.5. So he covered 4.5 times. He also had 6 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 blocks. He did a little bit of everything. The Swiss Army knife of the Detroit Pistons. So 4.5 assists for Cade Cunningham, I think looks good. It looks good, but just know if you're going to take the over on it, this game could blow out. But it seems like a pretty reasonable number at 4.5, being that we're getting 1 assist value versus a site like PointsBet, right? Who else do we want to consider here? D'Angelo Russell's at 6.5. He's been smashing his assist prop, even with Patrick Beverley back in the lineup. Now, there was a point in time when Bev was out. I was taking the over on D'Angelo Russell's assists without Beverley. It was kind of a no-brainer. Very high hit rate without Beverley in the lineup. I thought that maybe his assists would start to come down a little bit, but look, 12, 10, 10. Had 6 against Memphis. That was a little bit of a downer. And had 12 against Golden State in his last time out. So he's been getting it done at 6.5 assists. Over the last 10 games at 7.5 assists, 60% hit rate. Let's go take a look at the matchup here. Russell, combo guard, but, spends a little time at point and shooting guard. New York giving up about 6 dimes per game to opposing shooting guards. So for me, it's more about the ranking than it is the number. That's the third most assists allowed per game over the last 7 games to opposing shooting guards. So this is definitely a plus matchup for D'Angelo Russell. Let's look at the point guard spot. Point guards against the Knicks getting about 5.8 assists per game over the last 7 games. So whether you're a point guard or a shooting guard, you're looking at about 6 assists So maybe it's a little bit tougher of a matchup here for D'Angelo Russell. Let's look at his projections today. Got him projected for 7.6 assists. At 6.5 on some books, betting favorite at minus 140 odds to go over. At 7.5 on other books, a betting favorite to go under at minus 140. So some sites have him at 6.5, some sites have him at 7.5. In between lies 7 assists. So you got to hope that if you're taking the over on D'Angelo Russell here, that he drops 7 dimes in a game that doesn't have a super sky high total, but does look like it's going to stay close and competitive. I don't know that I'm completely interested in any of these other guys in terms of taking overs, but what we can do is maybe look at them as some underplays, like Andrew Wiggins, for example, at 2.5 assists, has only covered 2.5 assists in 40% of his last 10 games. Now, over the last couple of games here, with Klay Thompson back in the lineup, he's covered in 2 straight games with 6 and 4 assists. So he's been doing maybe a little less scoring and a little bit more playmaking. But low hit rates on Andrew Wiggins at 2.5 assists, just 40% hit rate. Julius Randle, another guy, low hit rates at 5.5 assists. Over the last 10 games, just a 30% hit rate. He's been bumped down to 5 on PrizePicks. 3 out of the last 5 games, he has actually covered this prop. So that's a 60% hit rate on Randle. But you look at the larger sample size, 10-game sample size, more often than not, he's been going under at 5.5. All right, so that's enough about some assists. Let's look at some 3-point takers and makers. Who's been making 3-point shots at a high rate, at a high clip? This guy right here, been doing his thing. Been knocking down 2 or more threes at a pretty consistent rate. Over the last 10 games, he's got an 80% hit rate at 1.5 threes. Now, I warned you guys about taking full game props. And I think in some cases, some situations, that could be a bad idea. But Andrew Wiggins knocking down 2 threes, if he plays 3 quarters of basketball, I think he can knock down 2 threes in 3 quarters of basketball. Now you look at his game logs, 0 against Cleveland, 3, 2, 3, and 2. So again, last 10 games, Andrew Wiggins, 80% hit rate at 1.5 threes, 80% hit rate in the last 5 games. Let's just go look at this matchup against Detroit. We'll go to the 3 p.m. category, which stands for 3-point shots made, in case you didn't know. Detroit giving up 3.8 3-point makes. That's the second most in the NBA over the last 7 games. Very good matchup for Andrew Wiggins. They're giving up nearly 4 per game. He needs to make 2 himself. Looking at the shooting guard spot, just for fun. Detroit giving up 3.8 3-point makes to opposing shooting guards over the last 7 games. So whether you're a shooting guard or a small forward, if you are a wing player, this is a great spot against the Detroit Pistons, who are giving up nearly 4 threes per game to both shooting guards and small forwards. Let's take a look at Wiggins here. Got him projected for 2.1 3-point makes and at 1.5 threes on 2 different books. Betting favorite to go over at minus 140 and minus 145 odds. Looking like a good spot here. I'm surprised they actually gave us this one. Probably my favorite 3-point prop on the board. What do you guys think? You believing in Wiggins? Are you believing in Andrew Wiggins at 1.5 3-point makes? I think it looks good. I think it's worth a shot. Other guys that are popping off here, Anthony Edwards at 3.5 3-point makes. He's not up on the board, but if you can get him somewhere else at 3.5 3-point makes, 70% hit rate. What's up, Dave? Thanks for joining, man. Hey to you too. Bounce back prop is a CJ favorite. Listen, it is. Because you know what happens is a guy will have one bad game, and then everybody will probably had taken him in that game where he had the bad game. And then they're like, oh man, recency bias kicks in. That guy just had a bad game. He hurt me. He didn't win me money, so I'm not going to take him the next time he comes out. But listen, there's like law of averages and stuff, right? Science. It's science, bro. But that guy usually comes back up to his averages in the next game. And if he misses 2 games in a row, then you better believe I'm definitely going back on that 3rd game. There ain't no way that he's going to have 3 bad games in a row unless something's really wrong with him, right? So if a prop is on a flop, I go back to it in the next game. If it flops again, I'm definitely coming back for a 3rd time. I'm just a glutton for punishment, I guess you could say. But don't be scared of guys who are coming off of bad games. Maybe you took them in the last game and they had a bad game. It happens. We have bad days, folks, right? That doesn't mean we fade him forever. Look at the averages and hope that that guy gets closer to his averages. You got to look at the averages over like a large span, 10 games, 20 games, 30 games. If that guy's like a 25 point per game scorer and coming off of a game where he scored 14, that's a below average game, his averages would indicate that he will probably bounce back at some point, snap back to those season averages, right? I'm just saying. No, I'm not seeing D'Angelo Russell's 3-point makes on the board, but at 3.5, he has hit in 60% of the last 10 games. Saddiq Bey is another guy. Over the last 10 games, 60% hit rate. But you look at the last 5, it's been up and down. I don't really trust Saddiq Bey. I just don't trust him. I don't know. I don't trust a whole lot on the Detroit side, to be honest with you. Those Cade assists look pretty good. Maybe Diallo's rebounds at 5, being that he's been bumped down. But otherwise, let's move it on over to free throw makes. I don't see a whole lot of other 3-point shooters that are worth talking about. Again, kind of hammered this home to you guys in the past. My favorite free throw props are going to be the guys that will have the basketball in their hands. So high usage guys, right? Who's going to have the basketball in their hands? Who's going to be getting a bunch of touches? Then I want guys who are going to be aggressive. I don't want guys who are going to be sitting out at the 3-point line taking threes all night. I want those guys that are going to be attacking the paint, that are going to be forcing their way into the teeth of the defense, who could get fouled and slapped and sent to the free throw line. I also like to think about guys who are going to be the designated free throw shooter in a technical foul situation. Say there's a tech. Who's going to be the guy going to the line for the opposing team that's going to shoot that technical foul? Who's going to be the guy at the end of a game? Say the game's close, like this New York Knicks Minnesota game. Say the game's close, projected to stay close. When the intentional fouls start going down, who's the free throw shooter that they're going to try to get the ball into the hands of? Those are the types of free throw guys that I look for. All right. So that's just kind of something to keep your eye out on. Now, RJ Barrett's been a pretty high usage guy, but you can kind of see, his free throw props are up and down, up and down. You would think Julius Randle, high usage guy, would be a good guy to get to the free throw line. But he's one of those guys who, for whatever reason, likes to sit out there at the 3-point line and play point guard. I need Julius Randle to be more aggressive. Maybe Karl Anthony Towns. He should be a high usage guy. 3 out of his last 5 games, he's hit 5 or more free throws. He's going up against New York today. One way that you can look into this further, you could do Karl Anthony Towns versus Knicks logs. And then you can go over to the FTM, that's free throws made, and FTA, free throws attempted. You can kind of get an idea over the course of his career versus the Knicks, how many times does he go to the free throw line? How many free throws does he make? So he's at 5 today. How many times does he hit 5 or more? 1, 2, 3? Not very good. Not very good. So that's just historically how he's performed against the Knicks. Now, we know Steph's going to have the ball in his hands quite a bit, but again, is he attacking the hoop? Not really. I mean, he's not really getting to the free throw line. It's not looking great. Andrew Wiggins, they're giving us some pretty ugly ones today. Maybe Cade Cunningham at 2. At least he's going to be somewhat aggressive. Maybe. So, I don't know. Not really in love with any of these free throw props from what I'm seeing so far, but Hoodie CJ puts up 1,000 free throws every morning. I don't know how you know that, but it's true. It's true. Aaron Rodgers says, alert! Make your own taco on the Discord today. We get to decide who we want the taco to be. I wish I had the ability to make tacos. I have no power over the tacos, my friend. The only thing I do with the tacos is gobble them up if they're good. Let's take some questions from you guys, all right? I've drilled through this 2-game NBA slate as much as I think I humanly can. There's not a whole lot left here, folks. Whatever picks or plays that you're liking, that you're talking about, that maybe I have not covered, go ahead and leave them now, and I'll start looking through some of them real quick. Thanks for showing up and showing out, though, on a 2-game NBA slate. Appreciate you liking. Let me see your picks. Listen, BB the label. I don't even have any picks yet. I don't have any picks. I don't has no picks. I haven't made any picks yet. We're looking at things here for the first time together. George is saying that PrizePicks Discord is allowing people to vote for their favorite taco. So head over to the PrizePicks Discord if you want to get in the kitchen and cook up your own tacos. All right, let's see what you guys are talking about. We've already discussed D'Angelo Russell's assist at 6.5. If you missed that, hit that replay. You can rewind and go back to the assist category. We definitely talked about that one a little bit though. Looking like a good way to go. We talked about Anthony Edwards' points already. Denzel, you're talking about Saddiq Bey under points. Now, we have not talked about Saddiq Bey under points. Again, we were kind of thinking that this game is going to blow out. Saddiq Bey not been the most consistent player over the last 5 games. So there could be some good under options coming out of this Golden State-Detroit game. At 15 points, he's already been bumped. Over the last 5 games, he's hit 15 or more points in 60% of his games. That's 3 out of 5. He's averaging slightly more than 15 at 16.4. Let's just take a look at this matchup. Golden State, typically a pretty good team defensively. I think Saddiq Bey's been spending some time at the 4 spot, the power forward position. Over the last 7 games, Golden State giving up about 21 points per game to the power forward spot. Let's just look at the small forward spot, just because the positionless NBA being that it is, Golden State giving up just 15.5 points per game to opposing small forwards. It's the first fewest. So, do you want to go under on a small forward or power forward from the Detroit Pistons? I ain't mad at you, especially if you can figure out who the true small forward is. Is it Diallo? Maybe you go under on Diallo. Maybe you go under on Bey, being that Bey's got the higher number here. A little harder to hit that number, potentially. But yes, that could be a worthwhile way to go. Taking an under in a game that could potentially blow out. I wouldn't be mad at that. I got Bey projected for 16.1. He is at 16.5 points on a number of different sports betting sites. Seeing different action. Some sites he's being bet up to go over. Some sites he's being bet down to go under. So, there you go. Let's see what else you guys are talking about here. I get what you're saying, Aaron. Aaron, do you like cheese on your taco, being that you're the Green Bay Packers quarterback? I would imagine you do. Some good old Wisconsin cheese. You guys, a couple of you were asking about Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles. Points? Fantasy points? How do we feel about him? Well, I don't know. Are you guys feeling good about like overs or unders on Trey Lyles? I see a couple of people asking about Trey Lyles. RB Powell is saying that we need to keep an eye on Steph Curry because some outlets are saying that he may not play tonight. And if he does, he might be limited to like 15 to 18 minutes. Kind of like his boy Klay Thompson, you think? That would definitely shake things up if Steph Curry plays on like a minutes limit. If that's true, if what RB Powell is saying is true, then I would definitely be in on some unders on some Steph Curry. I think Klay Thompson's still on a 20 to 25 minute limit. So again, you guys are asking a lot about Trey Lyles, but you're not really saying what you like in terms of the prop, over or under. Let's just look at it real quick. Lyles at 11 points. Last 5 games have been good. He's averaging 15 points per game over the last 5 games. 4 out of 5, 80% hit rate at 11 points. So you're wanting to potentially take the over here against Golden State? Let's take a look at the matchup. Lyles is probably more of a power forward, fair to say. Golden State giving up about 21.5 points per game to opposing power forwards, which isn't the most difficult matchup in the world. Kind of a middle of the road. We know Draymond Green out for Golden State. Lyles can be a power forward at times. I think sometimes he comes in and plays the center spot as well. Now, Golden State giving up almost 26 points per game to opposing centers. So I think that there's some upside here for Trey Lyles at just 11 points. Just looking at how many points are given up by Golden State to both power forwards and centers, he needs 12 points, right? Let's pull a projection up. I got Lyles projected for 13.8 points. So nearly 3 points higher. He's at 11.5 on a couple of different books, couple of different sites today. So I think Trey Lyles could definitely be in play for an over option, being that his points prop fairly low. He's been hitting it in a nice amount of games here, 4 out of 5. And he's shown 21, 18-point upside, 16-point upside for a guy who needs 11 or more. I say 11 because technically if you push, you're not actually losing anything. So Travis saying, hell yes, Wisconsin cheese curds from Ellsworth are the best in the world. I'd love some. I wish there was a way you could just instantly mail somebody some food, because Philadelphia's got some bomb cheesesteaks, right? If there was a way to instantly send that to you, man, I really got to get in an airplane or car and go all the way up there to get that. That sucks. Maybe one day, right? Aaron Rodgers says Trey Lyles under. Trey Lyles under? Maybe. Despite the 80% hit rate, you folks, or at least Aaron Rodgers is saying, take Trey Lyles under tonight. Are you just thinking that he's not going to get much run either if the game blows out? I don't know. Klay Thompson over 2.5 3-point makes is another one that I'm seeing show up here. Would you rather take Klay Thompson over 2.5 3-point makes or Andrew Wiggins over 1.5 3-point makes? Now there's a question for you. We talked about Andrew Wiggins being in a very good spot. Klay Thompson also in a very good spot. Shooting guards and small forwards against the Detroit Pistons. Detroit giving up nearly 4 3-point makes to both wing positions, shooting guards and small forwards. So let's look at Klay's projection. Got him projected for 3.1 threes, but he's a betting favorite, minus 135 to go under 2.5 3-point makes. So I don't know. For me, I'd probably feel more comfortable if you want to take an over on a 3-point prop on Andrew Wiggins. He has to make 1 fewer 3. Has shown pretty good form over a large sample size, both 5 and 10 games, rocking 80% hit rate. Hasn't really had his 3-point makes impacted a whole lot with Klay Thompson in, right? I mean, 4 out of 5, and I believe all these games are with Klay, right? Klay came back against Cleveland, yeah. So he's 4 out of 5, and that's with Klay. Most of these games being with Klay. So for me, I'd probably say that I like Andrew Wiggins a little bit more. What do you guys think? Andrew Wiggins over 1.5 threes or Klay Thompson over 2.5 threes? Now, Young O, you're talking about you like Klay Thompson over on points at 15.5. Now, why is that? Because you're looking at the logs here with me, right? You can see that he's went under in 3 straight games. So Young O is taking the over. I guess he said he already took the over on Klay Thompson points. Despite the fact that he is just hitting that 25% since returning to the Golden State Warriors lineup. Just looking through some of your other submissions here, seeing what you guys are talking about, what you guys are liking. So we talked a little bit about Trey Lyles, and he's been showing a good hit rate in terms of covering 11 points. But you guys are also asking about Trey Lyles and his fantasy points. 25 fantasy points. He's also hit, every time he's hit his point prop in the last 5 games, he's also hit his fantasy point prop. So that kind of goes to show you that they go kind of hand in hand, right? I've got Lyles projected for 27.2 fantasy points, which puts him over 25 by about 2.3 fantasy points. 2.3 fantasy points. He's projected to run out there for about 26 minutes tonight. Can't score any points or any fantasy points without being out on the court. So we need Trey Lyles to be out on the court. So his minutes projection is at 26. Just looking at the matchup here, Golden State, in terms of fantasy points allowed to the center position, the 3rd most. Over 62 fantasy points per game allowed over the last 7 games by Golden State. So does that benefit Trey Lyles or does it benefit Isaiah Stewart more? And if you're worried about a blowout, take them in a first half only format. But when Golden State's given up over 62 fantasy points per game to opposing centers, I sit up in my seat a little bit taller. That gets my attention. We go to the power forward position. Golden State giving up over 50 fantasy points per game to opposing power forwards in the last 7 games. So again, is that going to impact Trey Lyles? Is that going to impact Isaiah Stewart? Somebody's going to benefit. Golden State's front court just bleeding fantasy points. Yeah, we're doing the research together. Like, I literally don't like have notes or anything before the show. I don't come in here with anything pre-planned or scheduled. We look at everything together for the first time together, all at the same time. Like I don't really dig into anything. I'm doing it with you here in real time. So if you're asking me for picks, I have no picks made. I have no entries locked in at the moment. That'll come later. This is just kind of high-level research that we do together to kind of kick your morning off to start your day. And then you take some of what you learn here and some of what you've liked and didn't like from the picks that we discuss here. And then you go do a little bit of independent research. Dig a little bit deeper. Look into it a little bit further, right? This is by no means the end-all, be-all. This is not where your research should end. Hopefully it's where it begins. Start your morning off right. To Mr. David's point. Tell me you don't often watch the stream without actually saying it. Give me your picks exactly. Yeah, this isn't feed you picks time. This is like, let's do some player prop research together and dig in and see what's good and what's bad. Giovanni, you're talking about liking some Jared Vanderbilt over 6.5. Is that points? 6.5 points. Not bad. We looked at his rebounds briefly, but his hit rate for points at 6.5 is actually higher than rebounds. So Jared Vanderbilt going up against New York tonight. New York giving up just 17.3 points per game to opposing power forwards. So that's the 5th fewest. So on paper, looks like a really difficult matchup. Now, 17.3 points per game average. This guy needs 7 of those 17 points. I would say that there's a lot of room here, a lot of upside, right? A lot of ceiling for Jared Vanderbilt to potentially get that. Let's just quickly pull up a projection. I got Vanderbilt at 8. 8 projected points, which is 1.5 more than 6.5. At 6.5, he is a betting favorite on a couple of different sites, couple of different books to go over 6.5. At 7.5, betting favorite to go under. But the fact that he's at 7.5 on some books at least gives you a little bit of hope that maybe he's got 7 to 8 point upside, right? Dominic, you're talking about some Jordan Poole. I think Jordan Poole could be very interesting for a points prop if Steph Curry is limited, like somebody in the chat was reporting that maybe he's going to be limited. I think Jordan Poole would be very interesting as an over option. Now, we're not seeing him up on the PrizePicks board, but with Curry and Clay both limited, then maybe Poole would be a good look. I don't even have a projection for Poole, though. Let me refresh here and see if they've added him in since we've started the show. Nope, I don't have anything for Poole yet. No, nothing. So I don't know. I mean, that would be like a long shot. I don't know if we're going to get him up on the board, if or when. Appreciate all the likes, by the way. Thank you so much for liking. If you haven't yet, there's still time for you to hit a like on this live stream. We have been running 100 or more likes for a long time now. For a long time. Let's try to get to 100 before the hashtag replay gang gets their hands on this thing. Speaking of the replay gang, Kev Romero pulling up. Replay gang pulling up right here, right now. RB Powell was saying that he saw somewhere online that maybe Steph Curry would play like 20 or less minutes. Don't know. Haven't seen that myself anywhere, if that's true or not. So do with that what you will. Aaron, you don't like Julius Randle. What do you like? All I've heard is nothing but like, I don't like this, I don't like that. Aaron Rodgers, what do you like? Can we start talking about what you do like then? All I've heard is, we don't like Julius Randle. We go under on this one, and we don't like that one. Like, what do you like then? Clips is saying that he likes Julius Randle's rebounds. He thinks it's a lock more than the points. I mean, he's dominated the boards against Minnesota over the, course of his career. I know one thing that Aaron Rodgers likes. He likes cheese on his taco. Clay over. Okay. I do not remember Clips, him saying he likes Clay over. I do remember the cheese on the taco, though. He likes a little cheese on his taco. That's slang for yeast infections. A little cheese on the taco. All right. When do you suggest to cement the entries by? That's a good question, Abuelo. On big slates, when there's a lot of news going on and stuff, sometimes it pays to wait because out of nowhere a guy will be ruled out and then you get a DNP, do not play, or did not play rather. So sometimes it can be helpful to wait. Isaac, I don't think we talked about RJ Barrett's rebounds, or did we? We did. We did talk about him at 6 boards. I was saying that maybe coming off of a 12 rebound game, maybe we go under. But RJ Barrett, in terms of the matchup, Minnesota's given up like the first most or second most rebounds per game to the shooting guard spot. Kush, you're talking about going under on Andrew Wiggins at 4.5 rebounds. There he is. 4.5 board. Ooh, a lot of red here, folks. A lot of red here. Andrew Wiggins at 4.5 rebounds. 0 for his last 5 games at covering 4.5 boards. So if you're out there and you're looking for an under, maybe Andrew Wiggins at 4.5 rebounds is your under play. He's averaging less than 3 rebounds per game over the last 5 games. Looking at the matchup, though, against Detroit, small forwards, rebounds allowed. Detroit, wow, they're actually down toward the bottom as far as difficult matchups, giving up the 7th fewest rebounds per game to opposing small forwards. I'll pull a projection up for you as well on Wiggins. 4.8 is his number. Seeing some strong numbers, some strong action here. Minus 140, minus 130, betting favorite to go over. So I guess they're hoping that Andrew Wiggins finally breaks this horrid streak of unders at 4.5 boards. Maybe the betting public is wrong. They've been wrong before, haven't they? David, I appreciate that. I try to be the man that you guys need me to be to help you with your player prop research. RB Powell is saying an update here. Curry is off of the injury report, but different betting podcasts and analysts are saying that there's still a risk of a game time scratch, or because, it's the Pistons and they're bad, that maybe he'll be limited. Well, he'll definitely be limited if they come out and handle the Pistons like they should in the first and second quarter. I don't expect him to get a full run of minutes. Wow. This is a potentially good little nugget here. Craig Fields. Shout out to my man Craig, member of the Patreon and Discord community. He's mentioning Diallo as a first half fantasy point play. At 13.5 fantasy points, he's covered 13.5 in 13 of his last 14 games. Love it. Love it. That's looking good. Let's go take a look at that. We'll look at it together here. My man Craig coming through with a clutch piece of information there, potentially. Diallo's at 13.5 fantasy points. Let's go look at fantasy points versus Golden State. Now, Golden State's given up over 50 to opposing power forwards. Let's look at the small forward spot as well. They're giving up about 36, so a lot worse if you're a wing player. A lot worse if you're a wing player. So where do you guys kind of squeeze Diallo in there? Small forward, him and Bay kind of interchangeable at the forward spots, right? Small forward, power forward. Am I wrong on that? Do we have any Detroit Piston aficionados out there watching? But that could be a very interesting move here, especially if Diallo, if you count him as more of a power forward, Golden State giving up the third most fantasy points per game to opposing power forwards. Let's just take a look at Diallo's logs here. Hamidou Diallo, we got to go first half FanDuel points logs. Let's see if that gets us what we want. Okay. Hey, my man Craig's not wrong here. He's not wrong. 13.5 fantasy score, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row he's covered 13.5 fantasy points. Has a little bit of a down game here, 7.9 against the Hornets. But we go back to before that one, 14.8. That's another cover. 30, 31, 20, 25, 15. 14. Dude's been covering. Craig, you might be onto something, man. Appreciate you leaving that. George in Discord with the golden nugget. See, this is what kind of stuff happens here. We got like the Patreon only channels inside of Discord. We got some straight up stat savages in there that are doing player prop research. Okay? We're doing some stat savages, doing some player prop research in our Discord channels. It's just $20 a month. Helps support me as a content creator. Yesterday, our picks went 2 for 2. So if you did a 2-pick power play, you probably paid for your whole month of Patreon in one night. I'm just saying. All right, guys. Well, listen, I can't believe it, but somehow we've managed to stretch this thing out almost 2 hours talking about 2 NBA games, one of the games in which was a blowout. But hopefully we got deep into the trenches here and into the weeds, and we helped you land on some winning picks and plays. If you came in late, hit the rewind, hit the replay button, okay? And also hit the like button on your way out if you haven't yet. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you for everyone who joined this morning, who participated in the chat, who left their favorite picks, left their favorite plays. Keep an eye out. It's Taco Tuesday. Let's see what PrizePicks is serving up. Hopefully it's something delicious and not one that we want to send back to the chef in the kitchen. All right? We'll catch you tomorrow, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here on YouTube. Thanks again, guys. Peace.